Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're taking a deep dive into something that I think a lot of us are craving these days, and that's how to create those super chill, nature-inspired spaces. We're talking all about biophilic design.
Yeah,
And, I used to think it was just like, okay, throw some plants in a room and you're good to go.
right.
But it turns out there's a whole world of techniques to explore here. Our sources for this deep dive cover color palettes, textures, materials, how to use light, even patterns inspired by nature. So it's
Yeah,
way more than just a couple of houseplants.
definitely. It's really about understanding how we connect with nature and then using those elements in our homes and workspaces and anywhere really to
Yeah,
create these environments that actually improve how we feel.
that's so cool. So let's start with something I think we all get, and that's color. I mean, everyone's got a favorite color.
Right.
Our sources talk about nature-inspired color palettes being like the foundation for creating a sense of calm. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, color is amazingly powerful.
Yeah.
Like it can trigger certain emotions
Yeah.
and even change how our bodies react.
Wow.
So with biophilic design, it's about using the colors we see in nature to create that balanced, peaceful vibe in our spaces.
Okay, so the source material mentions greens and blues a lot. It talks about forest greens evoking that quiet, still feeling of being in the woods, and then blues, like they remind us of the ocean or the sky. Is there really something to that, you think?
Absolutely. There's a reason why we find those colors calming. Like studies show that being around green can actually slow your heart rate and lower your blood pressure.
Yo.
It's amazing. And blue, it's often connected to feeling calm and serene. Like think about looking up at a clear blue sky on a nice day. It's instantly relaxing, isn't it?
It is, it totally is. And I noticed the source material also talks about those earthy browns and terracotta tones we see everywhere in nature. It says they make you feel warm and grounded.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about clay pots and natural wood, things you see a lot in these kinds of designs.
Oh, for sure.
It's all about connecting back to the earth, right? What do you think the impact of those colors and those natural materials is on us?
Those earthy colors. Well, they do something really interesting. They give you this feeling of stability, like the sense of security.
Uh-huh.
Almost like a visual anchor. Think about it. In nature, those colors are like the soil, the rocks, the tree trunks. They're the foundation.
Wow.
Bringing them into our spaces can make us feel more rooted, like connected to something bigger.
That's fascinating. So it's not just copying colors, it's getting that deeper meaning they have in nature.
Exactly.
And that actually makes me think about something else our source material really emphasized, and that's texture.
Yeah, textures.
It's about appealing to all our senses in a space, not just what we see, right?
Right, right. It's a really big part of biophilic design.
Yeah.
Think about walking on a sandy beach or
Mm.
feeling the bark of a tree. Those are super grounding experiences that connect us to nature on a different level.
So it's not just about how things look, it's about using different textures that we react to physically.
Exactly. I mean, the source even talks about textured plaster walls.
Okay.
It's not perfectly smooth.
Yeah.
It's got depth, variation, almost like it's mimicking those natural surfaces we see outdoors.
Yeah, I get that. It would make a room feel less, I don't know, less sterile,
Right.
more real.
Hmm.
What other textures come to mind when you think biophilic design?
Well, I think natural materials like wood and stone are key.
Yeah.
Maybe a fireplace with a rough stone facade,
Mm-hmm.
or a wood coffee table with a live edge showing off the natural grain.
Mm.
They bring a sense of, I don't know, history, ruggedness,
Hmm.
and they contrast beautifully with smooth things.
It's that contrast that gets me, that mix of textures. Like I'm picturing smooth concrete floors with a wall covered in like a textured plant-based wallpaper.
Right.
It sounds almost opposite, but I can totally see how it would work.
And that's where the art of biophilic design comes in. It's about knowing how to combine those different elements to make it all feel balanced.
It's like you're composing a symphony of textures.
You could say that.
So we've talked color palettes, different textures, and I know the source material also emphasizes using eco-friendly materials. It just feels like sustainability goes hand in hand with this whole biophilic design approach.
Absolutely. Biophilic design isn't just about, bringing nature inside. It's about respecting and protecting it too.
I like that. So the source mentions low VOC paints, recycled wallpaper, sustainable wood.
Yeah.
What are some of the benefits of making those choices, both for ourselves and for the environment?
Well, low VOC paints, for example, they have way fewer of those nasty, volatile organic compounds, which are chemicals that get released into the air.
Okay.
So they can drastically improve indoor air quality, and that's huge for our health.
Especially for people with allergies or sensitivities, right?
Exactly. And then recycled wallpaper, it helps reduce waste and cuts down on using virgin materials, which is a win for the planet.
For sure. And what about sustainable wood? I remember reading somewhere that forests are being depleted at a crazy rate. Is there a way to know if the wood you're buying is actually sustainable?
Oh yeah, that's a great point. Keep an eye out for certifications like the Forest Stewardship Council label, the FSC label.
Okay.
That means the wood comes from forests that are managed responsibly.
Hmm.
Thinking about the environment, the people involved, and making sure it's economically viable.
So it's really about making thoughtful choices for a more sustainable lifestyle.
Exactly.
And speaking of bringing nature indoors, we can't forget about plants. I mean, they're like the rock stars of biophilic design.
And for good reason. They
Yeah.
literally bring life into our spaces. I mean, plants clean the air, they reduce stress, they just make us feel better. Did you know NASA studies show that having plants, like snake plants, in your home can actually remove up to 87% of harmful toxins in the air in just 24 hours?
87%. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible.
I always knew plants were good for us, but wow, that's impressive.
They're little powerhouses.
What are some of your go-to plants for biophilic design?
Well, it depends on the space and how much light it gets, of course.
Yeah.
But some popular ones are the fiddle leaf fig, the one with those big dramatic leaves.
Oh yeah, I love those.
They're gorgeous. And the snake plant, it's super low maintenance and it's great at purifying the air,
I've heard those are almost impossible to kill.
pretty much.
Yeah.
And of course, the Monstera deliciosa.
Ah.
It's got that bold tropical vibe.
I can just picture it in a bright corner, the leaves trailing down. It's such a statement piece.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it reminds us that incorporating plants isn't just about adding some green, it's about connecting with nature's beauty and resilience.
I love that. It's like bringing a little piece of the wild into our homes.
Exactly. It's not just about individual elements like plants or colors. There's like a whole other level to biophilic design that we don't always think about.
Ooh, okay, tell me more. What's this deeper level?
Well, it's about getting those principles that make nature so restorative,
Right.
Yeah. And then figuring out how to use them in the spaces we build.
Okay, I get that. But how do we even start to understand those principles?
Let's picture a peaceful spot in nature, someplace that just makes you feel good. What comes to mind?
Hmm. Well, for me, it's that feeling of openness, like lots of space.
Yeah.
The sunlight coming through the trees,
Uh-huh.
the sound of water, like a stream or a little waterfall, or maybe leaves rustling.
Yeah, I love that.
And just like the feeling of being surrounded by life, all the plants and animals and everything.
Exactly. Those are the things we can try to recreate in our designs. Like instead of having these small, dark rooms, we can design open floor plans with big windows.
Right.
So there's tons of natural light.
So it's not just adding things from nature, it's about creating those same feelings we get when we're actually in nature.
Exactly. It's called biomimicry.
Right.
It's basically taking cues from nature's forms and processes
Okay.
and using them to make spaces that are more sustainable and just feel better.
I'm starting to see how this is so much more than just like, oh, here's a plant, here's a blue wall. It's this whole other way of thinking about design.
It really is. And, the source material talks about using biomorphic forms and patterns.
Bio what?
Biomorphic, it basically means shapes and patterns that are inspired by nature.
Okay, so like what kind of things?
It's like, picture the spiral of a seashell,
Okay.
the way a tree branches out,
Uh-huh.
or the honeycomb of a beehive.
Yeah.
Those patterns can be brought into our designs,
Mhm.
like in architectural stuff, furniture, fabrics, even art.
I've actually seen some cool buildings with facades that look like honeycombs
Right. Yeah.
and furniture that's all curvy, like the way water flows.
Yeah. It's bringing that artistry of nature inside.
I love it.
And it's not just about looks either. Those patterns can actually have a calming effect on our nervous systems.
Really?
Yeah. Studies show that when we're exposed to fractal patterns, those are the ones you see a lot in nature,
Okay.
it can reduce stress and help us focus better.
That's wild. So like, could you even use those patterns in smaller spaces?
Totally. You don't need a massive project to use biophilic design.
Yeah.
Even in a tiny apartment, you could use fabrics with botanical prints or hang up art that's got a nature-inspired pattern.
Cool.
It's just about being aware of those details and how they change the whole feel of the space.
So even little tweaks can make a big difference.
Absolutely. You don't have to redo your whole place. Like, remember when we talked about natural light?
Yeah,
Just making the most of the natural light you already have can totally change a room.
that's true. What are some easy ways to do that?
Well, first, get rid of clutter on your window sills. Make sure curtains or blinds aren't blocking the light.
Makes sense.
You can also put mirrors in strategic spots
Yeah.
to bounce that light further into the room.
Okay.
And even think about the colors you use on your walls.
Uh,
Lighter colors are going to reflect more light
right.
and make it feel brighter and more spacious.
Even just opening my blinds all the way in the morning makes a difference for me. It's like inviting the outdoors in.
Exactly. It's all about those little choices. And another simple thing you can do is add more plants.
We were talking before about how plants clean the air,
Right.
but I bet there's even more to it than that, right?
Oh yeah, plants definitely bring this sense of life to our spaces.
Yeah.
They connect us to the natural cycles of growth and change.
Okay.
And taking care of plants can be super therapeutic,
Yeah. Yeah.
You're nurturing something, watching it grow.
Well,
It's grounding and rewarding.
you mentioned earlier that biophilic design isn't just a trend, it's like a whole shift in how we think about the spaces we build. Why do you think that is?
For so long, we've built things that are all about efficiency and function,
Yeah.
and we've forgotten about how they make us feel. We've built these concrete jungles that cut us off from nature.
And I think we're starting to see the effects of that. More stress, more mental health issues, just this feeling of being disconnected from the natural world.
Exactly. And biophilic design is a way to fix that, to bring nature back into our lives in a real way.
It's almost like remembering that we're a part of nature, not separate from it.
That's it.
It seems like we're finally waking up to how our health is tied to the health of the planet.
Yeah, I agree.
Creating spaces that reflect that connection isn't just something nice to have, it's important.
Totally. It's about creating a world where we can all thrive, but not by hurting nature, by being in harmony with it.
It's wild to think how much where we spend our time can affect how we feel, even how we work. When we started this deep dive, I thought biophilic design was just a bunch of plants. But this has been so cool seeing how much more there is to it.
It really is a totally different way to think about design, creating spaces that look amazing, but also make us healthier and happier.
So where do we start if we want to bring some of that biophilic goodness into our lives? It feels like we've covered a ton.
Yeah, we talked colors, textures, natural light, plants, even those crazy biomorphic patterns. But I think what's most important is remembering that biophilic design isn't like a checklist. It's more like a journey.
I like that. So it's not about being perfect right away. It's just starting and playing around with things.
Exactly. Pay attention to how you feel when you're in nature. What makes you feel the best? What colors? What textures? What sounds?
Sounds. That's something we haven't talked much about, like wind chimes, a water fountain, or even recordings of nature sounds.
Oh yeah, those can be super calming. Adding those in can really make a space feel different. Remember, biophilic design is about engaging all our senses.
Not just what we see. So maybe like getting some more plants, bringing in natural textures with fabrics or art, just opening the windows to let in fresh air and sunlight. Even those little changes can be powerful, right?
Absolutely. And as you get more into biophilic design, you can start trying more complex stuff, like those biomorphic forms.
It's about making a space that reflects your own connection to nature. But what if someone's feeling overwhelmed, like they don't even know where to start?
Start with what makes you happy. What part of nature are you most drawn to? The colors of a forest, the beach, the sounds of a rainforest.
And then find a way to bring that into your space.
That's it. Maybe it's as simple as a piece of driftwood on a shelf, or maybe you go big and build a whole green wall. There's no one right way.
I have to say, this has been an amazing deep dive. I'm feeling super inspired to rethink my own place and create a little peace haven.
I'm so glad. And remember, the cool thing about biophilic design is that it's always changing. There's always more to learn.
So we keep exploring, we keep learning, and we make spaces that are not just beautiful, but also make us feel alive. Thanks so much for being here and sharing all this with us.
My pleasure.
And to all our listeners, we hope this deep dive has given you some fresh ideas about how to bring the power of nature into your lives. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.